All right, Commanders Nation, we've got a lot to unpack today, and honestly, it's a mixed bag of emotions. Frustration, genuine concern, and one surprising, feel-good story that might just be the silver lining this fan base desperately needed. We're talking about a Pro Bowl left tackle who might be done for the year, a center situation so unstable it's almost laughable if it weren't so terrifying, and a rookie quarterback who quietly turned in one of the most encouraging performances of this entire preseason. So if you're new here, welcome to Commanders Focus. Hit that subscribe button right now because we are chasing 2,000 subscribers, and this channel is committed to breaking down every single storyline, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. Let's dive in. Let's start with the single most urgent problem on this entire roster right now, and I want to be clear, this isn't a talent problem. This is a front office decision problem. Back on August 16th, during a routine one-on-one drill, disaster struck. The Commanders' Pro Bowl left tackle tore his triceps. We're talking about a 5-time Pro Bowler. Arguably the best offensive line acquisition Adam Peters has made during his entire tenure as general manager. A player who came over via trade before last season and just signed a 2-year, $60 million extension back in March. And now, that player likely doesn't play a single snap all season. Think about that for a second. The single biggest investment this front office made in protecting Jaden Daniels' blindside is gone before the season has even started. So what's the plan? Well, the organization's answer came fast, almost suspiciously fast. Dan Quinn announced that the team would simply shift another lineman back to left tackle, a spot he actually played during his rookie season. Pulling him out of a completely different battle he'd been locked in at left guard, and when Quinn was directly asked whether the team planned to look outside the building for reinforcement help, his answer was 2 words: not today. That's it. No elaboration, nothing. And a well-connected ESPN insider confirmed independently that same week that this organization is planning to handle the situation entirely with internal options, not a free agent addition. Now look, I want to be fair here, because there is a real defensible case for staying internal. This lineman has actual starting experience at left tackle. 18 career starts there, including 12 during his rookie year, and he filled in admirably over the final 3 games of last season without the offense collapsing. That's not nothing. That's a real, legitimate track record. But here's where my problem with this whole situation starts creeping in. This same player was moved to guard just this past offseason specifically because the front office went out and signed 2 other players to lock down both tackle spots. So somebody needs to explain this to me. Either the organization was wrong back in March when they decided he belonged at guard, or they're wrong right now claiming he's the answer at tackle. Both of those things simply cannot be true at the same time. And here's what makes this whole situation even more maddening. There is a genuinely elite free agent tackle sitting on the open market right now who looks custom-built to solve this exact problem. We're talking about a 10-year starter, 140 consecutive starts, a Pro Bowl selection as recently as 2024 with a team that earned the #1 seed in the entire NFC. He requested his release from his previous team this offseason after they asked him to take a pay cut, and he has been sitting there, unsigned ever since. Yes, he's 33 years old now, not some spring chicken anymore. But according to advanced metrics, he closed out last season with an 89.3% pass block win rate, the second lowest mark of his career, sure, but still a genuinely strong number for a tackle his age. And here's the part that really has me scratching my head. This isn't some random name being thrown around for clickbait purposes. This player spent 3 full seasons playing under the exact same offensive coordinator who now runs Washington's offense. The team's assistant general manager also spent 8 years as that same organization's director of player personnel. During the exact stretch when this tackle was the cornerstone of their offensive line, and even personally scouted him back when he was originally drafted in the first round. This is the kind of direct, built-in connection that in this league usually turns into a phone call within 48 hours, not radio silence. A respected ESPN insider who's covered this franchise for years laid it out plainly on his podcast, framing the real question that actually matters here. If Washington does reach out, would this player be willing to come in and compete for the starting job, or would he only sign if the role is guaranteed up front? That's the crux of it. A player with this kind of resume doesn't necessarily want to walk in as a glorified backup plan. And then, just days ago, a national NFL insider from Bleacher Report publicly named the Commanders as one of the two best landing spots for this free agent tackle, right alongside the Chicago Bears. The framing was simple. His extensive experience should carry real value given that he started literally every single game he ever appeared in, but his age and recent performance dip should make him realistically available on a modest, incentive-laden contract. Translation? This isn't some $50 million splash signing we're talking about here. This is a low-risk, high-upside patch for a desperate need. And that's exactly where my frustration sharpens even further. When the cost is this low and the potential payoff is this high, why is the public answer still not today? Now, I want to steelman the other side of this argument too, because I don't want to come across as ignoring nuance here. Bringing in a brand new player this late, even one with built-in staff connections, carries a real continuity cost. The internal option already knows the protection calls, already has chemistry with his running mate at right tackle, already understands the offensive coordinator's scheme inside and out. Bringing in an outside veteran would likely mean 2 or 3 weeks of real adjustment before he's fully synced up. If the plan really is just to have the internal option hold the fort until the Pro Bowler potentially returns, maybe that adjustment headache genuinely isn't worth the disruption. That's a defensible position. I don't agree with it. But it's defensible. Here's my actual take, though, and I want to be crystal clear about this. I think Adam Peters is playing with fire here, driven more by organizational pride than pure football logic. This franchise has spent 2 years building an identity around doing things the right way, avoiding panic-driven decisions. I respect that philosophy. It's worked for them. But there's a massive difference between panicking and simply using common sense. Signing the best available tackle on the open market when your offensive line just lost its single most valuable piece isn't panic. It's exactly what a well-run front office should be doing right now. And if this internal fill-in struggles out of the gate against a tough divisional opponent in the first few weeks of the season, the question that lands on Peter's desk is not going to be a friendly one. Why did you let the best available tackle in football walk right by when you had 2 direct pipelines into that exact locker room? My prediction, and I'll own it if I'm wrong, I believe this free agent tackle signs somewhere between now and September 1st, either with Washington or with Chicago. And if Washington lets this window close by the time cracks start showing in a real regular season game, that opportunity is gone for good. The clock is running. And every single day that passes without that phone call being made works directly in Chicago's favor. Okay, and as if one offensive line emergency wasn't enough, stay with me here because there's a second crisis brewing up front that's getting a fraction of the attention it deserves, and honestly, the level of bad luck involved borders on comedy if it weren't so genuinely concerning. Washington brought in a veteran center this offseason specifically to lock down that starting job. Day 1 of training camp, he strains his calf, misses 3 full weeks, comes back, plays a couple of days, and gets hurt again almost immediately. That leaves this team with exactly 2 options on the roster to handle the middle of that offensive line, and between the 2 of them, combined, we are talking about a grand total of 2 career NFL snaps. Let that sink in. 2 combined snaps, protecting the middle of an offensive line that just lost its Pro Bowl left tackle too. This isn't a minor roster inconvenience. This is a flashing red warning light. And here's what makes it even more alarming. Dan Quinn, historically the single most even-keeled, least dramatic head coach in this entire league. actually admitted this publicly after Saturday's tight loss to the Detroit Lions. His exact words were that the team has real work to do to figure out where they want to land at that position. In Dan Quinn language, that's practically a distress signal. This is a coach who almost never calls out a specific position group publicly. If he's saying that in front of live microphones, it's because this problem is very real, and there still isn't a fully confident plan in place to fix it. Now, the organization keeps insisting the injured veteran will be ready for Week 1. That might genuinely turn out to be true. But we think he'll be ready isn't a strategy, it's a hope. And hopes don't protect a franchise quarterback from a disguised interior blitz on a critical third down against a hostile divisional opponent. A respected voice covering this team made an argument I completely agree with. The real mistake here wasn't failing to predict a freak calf injury on day 1 of camp. Nobody can predict that. The mistake was not bringing in a genuinely experienced backup center as insurance months ago, back in March, rather than scrambling for a solution in the final weeks of August. And there's actually a name sitting right there that makes an awful lot of sense as an emergency stopgap. A 34-year-old veteran with a decade of NFL experience. Well over 100 career starts at both guard and center, who was let go by his previous team earlier this year in what looked like a straightforward cost-cutting move rather than any real decline in play. Now, realistically, he probably wants a guaranteed starting job, and that guarantee might not be realistic in Washington's current situation. But in a genuine emergency like this one, you make the call anyway. It costs absolutely nothing to ask the question. Let's get into why this actually matters on the field, because I think a lot of casual fans underestimate what playing center at this level really requires. The center isn't just the guy snapping the football and blocking whoever lines up in front of him. He's the one making live protection calls, reading blitzes before they even fully show themselves, adjusting the entire blocking scheme on the fly based on how a defense disguises its look right before the snap. He is, functionally, the real-time logistical brain of the whole offensive line. Throwing a player with 0 or 1 career snap into that responsibility against a division full of defenses that specifically love confusing inexperienced centers with disguised pressure, that's playing with fire in a completely different but equally dangerous way as the tackle situation. To be fair to the players currently penciled in at that spot, neither of them is some complete unknown pulled off the street. One has NFL roster experience and understands the system even without meaningful game snaps under his belt. The other, a rookie, came in with a genuinely strong scouting reputation and natural instincts up front, even if he still has to prove it under actual regular season lights. Nobody's saying either of these two is guaranteed to be a disaster, but betting an entire contention caliber season with a franchise quarterback entering his 3rd year on 2 players with minimal real experience without any added insurance, that's a bet I personally wouldn't make if I were sitting in Adam Peters' chair. Bottom line on this one, this front office needs to make at least one phone call this week, whether it's to that available veteran center or to anyone else on the market, not necessarily as a permanent fix, but simply as a safety net while the current starter finishes recovering. If he comes back for Week 1 completely healthy with no further setbacks, I will happily admit I was wrong right here on this channel. But until that actually happens, this remains to me the quietest and potentially most costly alarm bell going off during this entire training camp. All right, quick pause here, because I promise this channel is all about giving you the full honest picture every single week, and that takes real time and effort to put together. If you're finding value in breakdowns like this one, please hit that subscribe button. We're building toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single one of you watching helps get us there. Okay, now let's get to some good news for a change. After 2 stories that had me sitting here with my eyebrows raised, I genuinely needed something to put a smile back on my face this weekend. And that something has a name: the Commanders' 3rd-string rookie quarterback. Quick context on the actual game first. Washington fell 17-13 to Detroit on Saturday in a preseason contest that overall didn't offer a ton of surprises for anyone following this team closely. Jaden Daniels started as expected but only played a single series. A quick 3-and-out that included a sack and an incomplete pass. Daniels himself addressed it afterward with a line that felt perfectly calm and completely on brand for him, essentially saying he's not worried about playing time, that any reps are valuable, and that the offensive foundation is already in place heading toward real game planning. That's exactly the kind of veteran maturity you want to see from a young quarterback heading into his third season. But the true star of the night was that third quarterback in the rotation. 11 of 14 passing, 162 yards through the air, and he personally led an 11-play, 78-yard scoring drive in the second half. Now, to keep this in proper context, Detroit sat almost all of their defensive starters for this one, so this wasn't exactly facing an elite unit. But even accounting for that, this rookie looked comfortable out there. He looked like he had real rhythm and timing, like someone who genuinely understands the scheme rather than just reacting play to play out of instinct. For a rookie quarterback in just his second career preseason, that is a genuinely encouraging sign. The first big spark of the night actually came from the defense, though, and it came with some extra flavor. On just the second defensive snap of the entire game, a cornerback who spent time with Detroit previously forced a fumble on the Lions' backup quarterback near the 18-yard line. Both teams had a real shot at recovering the loose football, but it bounced into the end zone where a rookie edge rusher fell on it for an early touchdown just 51 seconds into the game. That kind of play rarely means much in the long run during preseason football, but it does say something about the mentality this defense is playing with under its new coordinator. Aggressive. Constantly hunting for the football, unafraid to gamble in early down situations. Detroit's backup quarterback responded like a true professional, though. He threw an interception on the ensuing possession, but bounced right back on the very next drive with a 50-yard touchdown scramble off a fake handoff to tie the game. He explained his mentality afterward in a way that genuinely struck me as solid, staying even-keeled regardless of whether the previous play was good or bad, simply focusing on the very next opportunity. Sure, it's a bit of a locker room cliché, but it's the exact kind of cliché that, at the highest level of this sport, separates the players who sustain long careers from the ones who don't. Washington briefly reclaimed the lead on a 27-yard field goal, capping that impressive 11-play, 78-yard drive to open the second half, but Detroit ultimately took the game with a late short touchdown run and an insurance field goal, sealing the 17-13 final. On the injury front for Detroit specifically, there were a few scares worth monitoring heading toward the regular season, including an offensive lineman who left on crutches, a running back who entered concussion protocol, and a receiver dealing with a knee issue serious enough that the Lions' own head coach admitted concern about the diagnosis. None of that directly touches Washington, but it's worth filing away for future reference on the opponent's scouting radar. My honest takeaway here, in preseason, you never want to dramatically overreact to a single performance, even one as encouraging as this rookie quarterback delivered, simply because the level of competition doesn't match what you'll see once the regular season actually begins. But here's what I can say with real confidence. Every single time a third-string rookie goes out and plays with that level of composure and control, it builds genuine confidence capital inside that locker room, and it gives the coaching staff real peace of mind in case of a true emergency at the position down the road. I don't think this rookie is taking anybody's job this season, and honestly, he shouldn't be. But if this team ever genuinely needs a third quarterback in a game that actually counts, I feel noticeably more at ease after watching Saturday than I did before it. And in preseason football, that's exactly the kind of small, meaningful story worth digging out. The Commanders wrap up their preseason slate Friday in Baltimore. The final exam before the games that actually count begin. So there you have it, Commanders Nation, a strange, complicated mix of emotions all wrapped into one single preseason weekend. Real frustration over the indecision at left tackle, genuine concern about the lack of proven experience at center, and a legitimate smile courtesy of a rookie quarterback almost nobody outside this fan base was paying close attention to before Saturday. That's exactly what following this team is like right now, a brand new story every single day, and none of them deserve a lazy breakdown. I still believe this front office needs to make at least one serious phone call this week, whether that's for the available veteran tackle or a veteran center, because this offense's margin for error is shrinking fast with the regular season opener in Philadelphia right around the corner. If I end up being wrong about any of this, I'll own it right here on this channel. No excuses. That's the rule. So that's everything for today, Commanders fans. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, drop a like and let me know down in the comments, would you personally be making that call to sign a veteran tackle this week? Or do you trust the internal option to hold down that blind side all season long? I want to read every single response. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. We're chasing 2,000 subscribers on this channel. And every single one of you can help us get there. Raise hail, always. See you in the next one.